Considering that the important and many-sided contributions of President Ho Chi Minh in the fields of culture, education and the arts crystallizes the cultural tradition of the Vietnamese people which stretches back several thousand years, and that his ideas embody the aspirations of peoples in the affirmation of their cultural identity and the promotion of mutual understanding. From UNESCO General Conference, Paris, 29th October, 20th November, 1987. Ho Chi Minh was born into a patriotic Vietnamese family from a rural area rich in cultural and revolutionary tradition. He began to develop his unique personality early in his childhood. In 1905, for the second time, he followed his father to Huế, where he studied at the National School. As a youth, he had a precise awareness of life and strength of will. He took in his father's words. A Mandarin is but a slave in a mass of slaves, increasing slavery. After leaving Huế National School, Ho Chi Minh went to Phan Thiết, where he worked as an assistant teacher at Dục Thanh School, a private academy set up by patriotic Confucian scholars. Ho Chi Minh respected the patriotic Confucian scholars movement which opposed the French, but he realized if we ourselves have no strength and no unity among the masses, but instead wait for assistance from other countries, then we can never succeed. In October 1911, Ho Chi Minh took work as an assistant cook on the L'Amiral Latouche Treville so that he could travel and see how other nations lived and worked, then return to help his own country. He left a feudalistic nation under colonial domination for the civilizations of Europe and America, where he found himself a lonely stranger. Because he sought but he could not find these ideals: liberty, equality, fraternity. Instead, he saw that poor people everywhere were oppressed and suppressed. Russian journalist Osip Mandelstam met Ho Chi Minh in Moscow in September 1924. At that time, President Ho was using the name Nguyễn Ái Quốc. Mandelstam wrote, "From Nguyễn Ái Quốc shines the culture not of Europe, but perhaps of the future." Ho Chi Minh traveled to different parts of the world and undertook various jobs to support himself in order to continue his revolutionary activities. He lived among the poor as he searched for the truth, weighing and comparing the destiny and interests of his own people with those of humanity. Beginning in August 1919, using the pen name Nguyễn Ái Quốc, Ho Chi Minh published many articles exposing the cruelty of colonialism. He made this urgent call: indigenous peoples will not suffer humiliation any longer, but will rise up. He founded the Association of Colonized Peoples, and through his newspaper Le Paria, or the Outcast, affirmed the purpose of his opposition: the liberation of oppressed peoples around the world. Ho Chi Minh used the press as a vanguard and as a sharp weapon that could promote his opposition. He then left Europe for Guangzhou, China.
Đến năm 1925 thì người về Quảng Châu.
In 1925, Ho Chi Minh went to Guangzhou to be closer to Vietnam. There he organized the Association of Revolutionary Vietnamese Youth and published Thanh Niên Youth newspaper. Through articles in these small newspapers, he was able to open out the revolution in terms of ideology and politics, and to determine a path for Vietnam's revolution. In December 1938, Ho Chi Minh worked at the office of the Chinese Liberation Army in Quay Lin. Once again, he lived among the poor, this time at Lu Mo hamlet in Linh Chuan district, 10 kilometers from the office. During this period, he used many different pen names to write dozens of articles for newspapers printed in China, England, France and Vietnam. In the course of his struggle for his people's independence and happiness, as a journalist, President Ho Chi Minh wrote some 2,000 articles in many different formats and in different languages for target groups within and outside the country. President Ho Chi Minh was imprisoned twice during his revolutionary career. The first time involved his famous legal case in Hong Kong and his success as a result of assistance from lawyer Frank Lusabai and his wife. He described his second imprisonment in his book of poems, Prison Diary. Ho Chi Minh wrote 134 poems as a conversation with himself during more than a year in captivity. In that period, he was forced to travel, usually on foot, some 1,000 kilometers. The Kuomintang Chinese authorities arrested Ho Chi Minh on the 27th of August 1942. He recorded the event in a poem. They humiliated me on Glory Street. Their idea dragged me, slow me down. They invent a suspect story of spying. A man loses his honor for no reason. Nevertheless, the chained prison could not restrain Anderho, who had accepted the struggle for the freedom of humankind as his way of life. He crossed 13 districts of Guangxi province and was detained in 18 prisons. One may ask, what was his crime? His crime was loyalty to his country and to his people. He liberated himself through the will of a revolutionary and the soul of a poet. The body is in prison, but the spirit never. For a great cause, let the spirit rise forever. Through his poet's soul, Ho Chi Minh freed himself, even while he was imprisoned, by becoming one with nature. Although my arms and legs are tightly bound, birds in the hills sing and the flowers bloom. Who can stop my pleasure in scent and song? I feel a little less lonesome on this long road. His hope for the struggle of a revolutionary was in accord with the emotional spirit of a poet. He wrote, "The pale east turns rose with the coming day. The last shades of night begin to slip away. A warm breath blows over the immense sky." He walks on. Poetic inspiration starts to fly. Surrounded by picturesque nature in his own plight, Ho Chi Minh wrote, "Cinnamon forest has neither cinnamon and forest. Its rivers are deep, its mountains ranges are so high. This jail destroys the peace of the banyan's shade. It is bitter cold by day, dark and desolate at night." The Kuomintang freed Ho Chi Minh on the 10th of September 1943. He lived and worked at number 2 Lao Chua Street in Liu Zhao City. Taifong Mountain peak rose up immediately in front of his house. Peaks hug the clouds and clouds hug the peaks. The widening river glimmers like a polished mirror. Beset with longing, I hike across the western range. I reconsider the southern sky, remembering old friends. In Prison Diary, President Ho Chi Minh wrote about his deep feeling for the Chinese friend Yang Thao, who belonged to the Chuang ethnic minority. Yang Thao came from Bamong Commune, Qingxi district, and had been a guide for Ho Chi Minh. Yang Thao was arrested along with Ho Chi Minh. Shortly after Yang Tao's release from prison, he contracted tuberculosis and died. Ho Chi Minh grieved at the news of his illness. "What pretext caused waves to crash against your chest, brother Yang Tao? I'm saddened by your relentless misfortunes. Now, news of the TB makes me even fonder of you." After Vietnam was at peace, Ho Chi Minh invited 7 peasants from Thịnh Tây and Na Pha districts to visit Vietnam. These farmers had supported the Vietnamese Revolution. Among the visitors was Yang Sheng Chiang, Yang Tao's younger brother. The visit by Young Thao's younger brother to Vietnam and his meeting with President Ho Chi Minh was a point of pride, not just for the visitor, but for everyone in his village. We were greeted by Ander Ho and invited to share a meal with him. He asked after the life and health of each person and each family. Then he arranged for us to visit Hanoi, Hai Phong and Ha Long Bay. He was a wholehearted and thoughtful host. I still have a photograph taken with him. From Europe, in July 1928, Ho Chi Minh went to Mae village in Thailand's Nakhon Pathom province, where there were many Vietnamese living overseas. My father and Uncle Ho had been friends in Vietnam because they came from the same homeland of Nam Dan district. When Uncle Ho arrived in Thailand, that area was still jungle. With his own hands, Uncle Ho and others in the association cut down trees to make houses. Uncle Ho ground, powdered and cooked rice. Uncle's rice paddy was 10 kilometers from here. Whenever the water rose in the rainy season, Uncle and the others would catch the fish. Uncle made fish sauce from the fish that were dead. He killed the live ones and cooked them to eat over a long period of time.
ผมเนี่ยเป็นคนจังหวัดพิจิตรซึ่งเป็นสถานที่แรก
The most memorable thing about Ho Chi Minh was that he was eager to learn. He lived in harmony with everyone and grasped the nature of Thai society. He taught the Vietnamese here to live and work in a way that was appropriate to Thai traditions and customs, to abide by Thai policies and laws, to be considerate of Thai people, and to live an honest life. I really respect those teachings by Ander Ho. President Ho was not just a shining mirror and a symbol of Vietnam people, but also a world leader. Because of surveillance by the French secret police, Ho Chi Minh took refuge several times in Wat Pho Pagoda, where he disguised himself as a monk. He went from Nakhon Pathom to Nong Ont in Udon Thani province, where he founded the cooperative association and published the Affection newspaper. Ho Chi Minh followed a daily routine. During the day, he would do physical work for several hours, then study several dozen Thai words and translate several pages of a book. In evenings, he ran political training sessions, chatted, organized a play for everyone to see. In truth, I respect President Ho Chi Minh because of his great sacrifice for the country of Vietnam. In terms of size of President Ho's road to save his country, both in Udon Thani and in Nakhon Pathom, it seems to me that he led a simple life like other ordinary people, but he held a strong belief in the path of national salvation. In particular, Ho Chi Minh had the virtues of the leader struggling to save Vietnam and striving to develop into a rich country. Not every leader has such qualities. From Thailand, Ho Chi Minh crossed the Mekong and went to a poor village in southern Laos. Many of the residents there were people who had fled from Vietnam's Ha Tinh and Quang Binh provinces after the Cần Vương uprising.
Ở chỗ này á là tất nhiên là làng Siêng Hoan. Thì có cái nhà đấy là
This
nhà
is
của
Siêng
bác
Vàng village, and this is the house of Ander Ieng. At the end of 1928, Uncle Ho came to this house and organized classes to teach his compatriots how to behave, how to unite in support of their homeland, and how to assist one another. After Uncle Ho left, Uncle Khu continued with the teaching. Only after Uncle Ho had gone did everyone learn that this man was the famous revolutionary Nguyen Ai Quốc. In the fall of 1945, Vietnam achieved its independence nearly after 100 years of colonialism. President Ho Chi Minh saw this as his foremost task build a country for the people. Uncle Ho wrote the following in his article about the movement to eradicate hunger. When we lift our rice bowls to eat, we think of those who are hungry and miserable. We can't help but feel sorrow. And so I would like to suggest this idea to my compatriots throughout the country, and I will be the first to put the idea into practice. During the years of resistance war against the French, Uncle Ho lived together with government officials and soldiers as if in a family. One winter, he sent a jacket to one of the officials and added this note in a poem. "This jacket, a friend's gift, I present to you. Keeping yourself warm will warm me too." Most of all, Ho Chi Minh was concerned about the peasants' everyday life. He understood the thinking and aspirations of the people and said, "For so many years my heart was next to my compatriots, and so I think my compatriots' hearts are always next to mine. During my entire life, I have had only one longing, my greatest longing, that all my compatriots would have enough to eat, warm clothes to wear, and a chance to study." Vietnam has built on Ho Chi Minh's wish and has grown into the second nation in the world among rice exporters. Years ago, in 1945, when announcing the movement of popular education and illiteracy eradication, Ho Chi Minh wrote, "Now we have our independence. One of the tasks we must implement with greatest speed is to improve the cultural standard of our people. Those who don't know their letters should try their best to study. Husbands should teach wives, older brothers and sisters should teach their younger siblings, and children should teach their parents. Study to work to become a better person and a better career, a cadre. Study to serve the nation and humanity." The younger generations of Vietnam work to implement these words and Ho Chi Minh's wish so that Vietnam can stand shoulder to shoulder with the nations on all 5 continents. President Ho Chi Minh was himself a mirror for self-study. Until now, no one has determined for sure how many languages he knew. American historian Josephine Stenson holds that he could speak and write in 12 languages. Writer Lady Bolton, who has written many books about Vietnam and Ho Chi Minh, says,
So at the base of culture is language. And as far as I know, everywhere that Ho Chi Minh went in the 30 years that he was looking for a way for independence for Vietnam, every country that he went to, he studied the language of that country. He studied English, he studied French, he studied Russian, he knew Chinese, he studied Spanish, German, Thai. He studied the ethnic minority languages up on the border.
Because he cared about environmental protection, in the spring of 1960, Andrew Ho announced tree planting date. He said, "For benefits in 10 years, plant trees. For benefits in 100 years, nourish the people." The last tree Ho Chi Minh planted was on the first day of the Lunar New Year in 1969. The tree was a banyan on Vật Lại Hill in Ba Vì District, Ha Tây Province. The movement of planting trees to preserve the environment has become a custom as well as a strong, beautiful feature of Vietnamese culture. President Ho Chi Minh created us around his house on stilts in Hanoi a beautiful setting with an ambience and lifestyle like that in the resistance area of northern Vietnam. It was simple and pure, yet appropriate to the richness of President Ho's soul and high spiritual values. He never wanted to distance himself from nature or from other people.
Bác Hồ đã trải qua 36 năm trời đi từ nước này sang nước khác.
Uncle Ho spent 30 years traveling from country to country, linking himself with the world's movements, struggling against oppression. He carried his own people's culture with him and absorbed the cultures of humanity, so that he became an icon for Vietnamese culture, which includes not only what has passed, but also contemporary needs. Uncle Ho accepted the culture of both the East and West. He was neither from the East nor from the West. Rather, Ho Chi Minh symbolizes all humanity. President Ho Chi Minh drew no boundary between nations and humanity or between East and West. He shared his intellect and sentiments not just with the Vietnamese people, but also with poor people across the world. Ho Chi Minh absorbed and used the essence of Vietnamese culture and of all humanity to liberate all peoples, to improve the status, establish friendship between nations, and create a cultural environment for a new world without violence, oppression, and war. Ho Chi Minh's cultural thinking has illuminated the way for Vietnamese efforts to establish friendship and harmony with other nations in order to create a world of peace and happiness for everyone.